Let's talk about India's nuclear energy program. India's Prototype Fast Breeder Reactor (PFBR) at Kalpakkam achieved criticality on April 6, 2026.
On the 6th of April, India took a giant leap towards becoming energy independent when the Prototype Fast Breeder Reactor at Kalpakkam achieved criticality.
Marking a key milestone in its nuclear program. Now, while this criticality is often seen as a major achievement, it is not the final goal but actually the initial stage of reactor operation. Now, it represents the beginning of a controlled nuclear chain reaction, signaling progress but not completion of the project. Now let's understand about this term criticality first in order to understand the entire cycle of the nuclear reactor. Now criticality occurs when a nuclear reactor achieves a self-sustaining chain reaction, where each fission event releases neutrons that trigger further fission in surrounding nuclei. Now engineers carefully control fuel composition, neutron movement and reactor temperature to maintain this particular state. Now, while criticality it indicates a stable and controlled reaction, it does not mean that the reactor is ready for commercial operation yet. And after reaching criticality, the reactor is run at a low power for extended periods to ensure that all parameters remain within the design limits before progressing to higher operational stages. Most of India's nuclear reactors are pressurized heavy water reactors, that is PHWRs, that use natural uranium, which contains around 99.3% uranium-238 and 0.7% uranium-235. And neutrons are slowed using a moderator to enable uranium-235 fission, producing heat and a small amount of plutonium and more neutrons. However, these PHWRs are inefficient as only 1% of the fuel is utilized before becoming unusable. So now let us try to understand the working of these fast breeder reactors. Now these FBRs, as we call it, fast breeder reactors, they are significantly more efficient with a fuel utilization rate of around 10% or more. And unlike PHWRs, fast breeder reactors primarily use plutonium as fuel and do not rely on slowing down neutrons. Now the reactor core is surrounded by a blanket of depleted uranium. When fast neutrons strike this blanket, uranium is converted into plutonium, which can be reprocessed and reused as a nuclear fuel. Now this plutonium-based fuel, it undergoes fission using fast neutrons, releasing more fast neutrons that continue the process. And this creates a system where the reactor not only generates energy, but also produces additional fuel, enhancing efficiency as well. Now, since we are clear with working of FBR, let us try to understand India's three-stage nuclear program and FBRs. So India's nuclear program, of course conceived by Homi Bhabha, is structured in 3 stages to achieve long-term energy security in our country. So in the first stage, they have PHWRs, that is pressurized heavy water reactors. And they use natural uranium to generate electricity while producing plutonium and depleted uranium as byproducts, as we have already covered. In the second stage, fast breeder reactor FBRs utilize this plutonium and depleted uranium to generate more energy and produce additional plutonium, again we have already discussed. And in the final stage, advanced reactors will use plutonium and thorium to produce electricity, leveraging India's abundant thorium reserves. Now FBRs, they act as a crucial bridge between the initial uranium-based phase and the final thorium-based cycle, enabling self-sufficiency in a nuclear power in our country. Now that's about the 3-stage nuclear program of our country. But there are several challenges in developing these fast breeder reactors, and one of the biggest amongst them is technical complexity and delays. See, developing FBRs has proven far more difficult than anticipated. India's prototype PFBR faced significant challenges during construction itself, despite being designed and executed by specialized institutions. And the usage of liquid sodium coolant. FBRs use this liquid sodium coolant as a coolant, which improves the heat transfer and avoids the need for high pressure. However, the sodium reacts violently with air and water, requiring perfectly sealed systems and strict leak detection mechanism, making operations very complex and costly compared to the water-cooled reactors. That is the second big challenge. Japan's Monju reactor, it's an example. It suffered a sodium leak and a fire, leading to eventual shutdown. France's Super Phoenix reactor was closed due to the technical problems and high costs. And Russia continues to operate a limited number of FBRs, showing technical feasibility. Now, other than these two problems, there are economic and public acceptance issues as well. Now, although it is technically very feasible, but FBRs are not yet economically viable, and they have struggled to gain public acceptance overall. And high cost and safety concerns, they remain major barriers, and which is why there is a need for strong safety and oversight. FBRs, they require rigorous monitoring, of course, engineering precision is required, and strong safety culture is required in order to make their successful operation dependent both on technological capability and institutional discipline. Now, since we understood a lot about these fast breeder reactors, let us try to understand what is India's approach. What is our country's approach to fast breeder reactors? See, first of all, India is having a strategic focus on a long-term fuel security, which is why India's pursuit of fast breeder reactors is driven by its three-stage nuclear program, which we have already discussed. And this aims to ensure long-term energy security by efficiently utilizing available nuclear resources in our country. Also, there's a state-driven and insulated governance structure in our country. And India's nuclear sector is largely state-controlled, with this the department known as Department of Atomic Energy, DAE, reporting directly to the Prime Minister's office. And this particular structure has enabled continuity of nuclear projects across political cycles in our country. And not just this, there is limited accountability and transparency issues as well. See, the insulated decision-making framework, it has reduced scrutiny. Projects have faced delays and cost overruns with the accountability diffused across agencies. So this PFBR fast breeder reactors cost rose from around 3,500 crores to around 6,800 crores, alongside multiple deadline extensions. And India's nuclear ambitions, they have taken decisive leaps with respect to this particular part. Now, since we have understood a lot about these fast breeder reactors, let us now overall talk about India's nuclear ambitions and India's nuclear energy strategy. See, India's nuclear energy ambitions, they have taken a decisive leap, of course. But there is one act. With this particular act, they have taken more than a decisive leap. And that is Shanti Act of 2025. It repealed actually decades-old legislations to open the sector to private and foreign investment in our country. And the target is actually scaling nuclear capacity from a mere 8,780 megawatt today to 100 gigawatt by 2047. Again, a very ambitious target. And this push is anchored in two national imperatives: achieving Viksit Bharat and reaching net zero emissions by 2070. And with thermal power still generating around 75% of India's electricity, nuclear emerges as the only viable low-carbon based alternative to coal at scale. And yet, turning legislative intent into gigawatts, it will demand indigenous technology, of course, it will demand some smart financing, and it will demand robust regulations in our country. Which is why, in order to understand what are the major reforms undertaken by India to revamp its nuclear power sector, let us try to understand this point by point. First, as I've already told you, legislative harmonization via the Shanti Act of 2025. Now, as you all know, the enactment of this sustainable harnessing and advancement of nuclear energy for transforming India, in short we call it a Shanti Act, has finally resolved the long-standing civil liability that stalled foreign collaborations for over a decade. Now, by aligning Indian law with the international conventions, the Act provides a predictable legal environment for global suppliers while ensuring robust compensation mechanisms for the public. And also this Act effectively unlocked the Jaitapur and Kovada projects. As a result, India's total nuclear capacity is now on a verified trajectory to hit around 100 gigawatts by year 2047. And not just this, the Union Budget 2025-2026, it allocated around 20,000 crores for a new nuclear energy mission, which is focused on small modular reactors, SMRs. And there have also been strategic diversification of nuclear joint ventures in our country. And India is utilizing internal synergies by creating joint ventures like Ashwini between NPCIL and NTPC to pool financial resources and technical expertise from the thermal power sector as well. And this multi-agency approach ensures that the burden of the project management is shared, accelerating the gestation period of massive projects like Mahi Banswara. Also, the government has undertaken industrialization of indigenous technology, and India has successfully transitioned from experimental to fleet mode deployment of its 700 megawatt pressurized heavy water reactors, ensuring standardized construction and lower costs. And this particular shift, it allows for simultaneous development across multiple sites, effectively breaking the bottleneck of one-off reactor builds that plagued previous decades. And it has also fostered a robust domestic manufacturing ecosystem. It has enhanced supply chain resilience and reduced the dependence on foreign vendors in our country. And which is why there is a need for strengthening the global supply chain and domestic fuel security, and India has already done that. And India has significantly bolstered its uranium security through a mix of deepened strategic ties with Russia and the discovery of fresh domestic deposits in the legacy mines of our country. And by securing long-term fuel cycles for the Kurakulam units and expanding domestic mining, India has actually mitigated the nuclear isolation risk of the past. And also a new deposit discovery at the Jaduguda mines in 2024 has extended the mine's life by 50 more years. Which is why what we understand from this is that India's nuclear energy program is in the right hands, and the government has taken sufficient measures to boost India's nuclear energy program to a very great level. But then the last question is, what extra measures can India adopt and take to enhance India's nuclear sector further? See, there are very few measures, but one very precise measure amongst them is mainstreaming nuclear as energy in ESG and climate finance. Now, India must formally integrate nuclear energy into its domestic green taxonomy and sovereign green bond framework to unlock low-cost international climate capital. And by labeling nuclear projects as clean energy assets, the sector can bypass traditional high-interest debt trap and attract environmental, social and governance ESG-focused pension funds. And this financing re-engineering would actually lower the weighted average cost of capital, making nuclear tariffs competitive and long-term solar plus storage hybrids. Also, there can also be one suggestion of implementing a plug-and-play model. Like a nuclear park model, the government should transition from a project-based land acquisition to a nuclear park model. Like you must have heard of industrial parks, you must have heard of industrial corridors, right? Green parks. Similarly, a nuclear park model where the center pre-clears sites with all the environmental, CRZ and seismic approvals before tendering them to the developers. It is similar to the ultra mega solar parks which we've created, and this would involve the creation of special nuclear zones in cognizance or in line with the special economic zones which you must have heard of. And with pre-installed heavy lift logistics and water sharing infrastructure as well, which is again plug and play system. And this will eliminate the first pour uncertainty for private players and NPCI alike. Drastically, this will reduce the pre-construction gestation period, and it will be incentivizing a nuclear tier 2 industrial supply chain as well. To move beyond the bottleneck of the few, India must launch a production-linked incentive scheme specifically for MSMEs capable of manufacturing nuclear grade high-precision components. That is another suggestion of PLI scheme being launched specifically for MSME for manufacturing of this nuclear grade high precision components. And by subsidizing the cost of international quality certifications like ASME and stamp and specialized metallurgy R&D, the state can create actually a robust decentralized vendor base for itself. And this indigenization of a mid-tier supply chain ensures fleet model construction is not stalled by the limited capacity of a few large conglomerates. Now, by implementing these measures and several other measures, of course, India can at least ensure that wherever its nuclear energy program is, it reaches to its maximum and we are able to achieve the goal of the 100 gigawatts energy through nuclear program by the year 2047. If you are able to ensure this, definitely our nuclear program would be a success. I hope you gained a new perspective from this session. Do let me know what are your views around India's nuclear program, India's efforts and what more could be done to improve India's nuclear program. Do let me know in the comment section. I'll be very happy to read your comments. All the very best. Have a beautiful day. Thank you.